Hi, it's Jay Shepard again. If you haven't checked out my first video for the Swing Etude for the All Region 5 Jazz Guitar video, go ahead and do that right now. If you saw it, you might have seen some preliminary exercises as far as chord explanations and shapes and things like that. We won't do as much with that on this episode when we cover the ballad, because it's a little more technically demanding, and the fingerings and the playing is going to take a little more time and attention, so we'll focus on that instead. So without any further delay, let's look at the first couple measures of this piece. While the first two measures may seem quite simple and straightforward, only having 4 different chords, all of them being half notes, they're actually a little more complex than meets the eye. The reason is the musical demands on the technique. For one, since this is a ballad, you need to have the chords played very smooth and connected. And to do that, you have to have precise left hand and right hand coordination. So for instance, every time you change a chord, they can't be too disconnected or staccato from each other to sound right. That's just really not the style. And to do a smooth connected sound, you have to pay close attention to the left hand and try to find notes that are common to both chords, or just try to keep your fingers closer to the fretboard and make the shifts between the chords a little smoother and quicker. The first two chords feature a situation where you have a pivot. So if we have this G major 7 fingered like this, notice my first finger is fingering the top 2 strings of the chord. And when I go to change the chord, I'm pivoting it around on the first finger. So when I go between the chords, you know that the first fingers are holding down, can keep ringing. It may seem like a little deal, but when you speed it up, it makes the change become very smooth and effortless. It also makes the chord shifting more secure. So that's why that half B symbol is by the first 2 chords. It's called a half bar. That's when you're just barring, a few strings at a time of the chord shape that you're on with the first finger. The next 2 chords, you want to keep the fingers close to the fretboard. It also features a couple fingers, well, 3 fingers really, that are guide fingers. You have your first finger down. Even though you have your first finger, your third finger, and fourth finger, all as guide fingers, because in between that F minor 7 and the E7, they're not changing strings. So you can leave them on the strings even as you pick them up and move them to the next chord. Just because you lift off of a string or to stop the ringing doesn't mean you have to lift your fingers completely off the guitar and then put them back down. You can just simply release the pressure and then shift. One more tip about a clean chord shift is if you can plant the fingers on the next chord that you're going to before you play it, it'll erase the shift. And since you won't be able to hear the left hand noise as much with the right hand muting the strings. But without the right hand muting the strings, you can hear it a little better. But with the right hand on the strings, the left hand noise tends to go away. So remember those things while you practice the first 2 measures. Okay, on the next few measures, once again, we have some simple chord changes, but you need to pay attention to try to change between them smoothly and quickly. That way the sound is nice and legato. There's not too much space in between the chords. In measures 5, you have this sliding diminished chord, and the trick is in the tablature you'll see that there are lines drawn in between each finger and note in the chord, and all this is, it just means that every single finger that played the previous chord is going to just shift the entire position to play the next one. So every finger does a shift. So really you just lift the pressure up and move the whole shape up or down to the next fret. So that's helpful because when you have those, that means all the fingers are guide fingers. You may see that in other cases to where almost all the fingers are guide fingers, and maybe there's just one note that doesn't have the line connecting it to the next, and then that's the one that maybe stays where it's at while the other ones move. There's an example of that later. Besides that, the chords are pretty self-explanatory, and just follow the fingerings and make them real smooth and connected is the idea. Yeah, so measures 7 through 10 here. Start right off with some guide fingers. So you have this A minor shape, then you guide the bar down to the D7 flat 9. Then the next chord, you guide the bar down another fret to the D minor 7. And then you can just shift around with the other fingers and leave the first finger there for that C sharp diminished chord. And then you have to kind of pick up and move it. That's the hardest little shift there to the D minor 7. Then that can give you some trouble too, maybe the D minor 7 going to the A flat 13 or A flat 7. I wrote a 13 in there because I thought it fit the harmony a little bit better. So the trick there is to keep the first finger really close to the guitar and be sure the fourth finger is over the B string before it comes down on the 13 chord. Let's see. And then you have this sliding 7 chord shape that goes from the 3rd fret. On that one, you're really going to want to plant your right hand before you get to that 2nd chord. That way you don't hear all this, because that'd be bad. You want to kind of hide the shift. The way I did that is I planted my right hand before I played that next position. Same thing with those last 2 chords. If you do it slowly, you can really see my right hand coming down before I place the next chord. That helps to clean up the sound and keep it nice and smooth. There's not as much difficulty in measures 11 through 14. Only part that you may watch out if you haven't been paying close attention to your right hand planning is this series of diminished chords descending down that I put in there. That's in measure 13. What you don't want to hear again is a shift that you can hear. You don't want to hear any shifts like. Sounds kind of juvenile and a little too distracting for a texture of a big group. So you want to be sure and plant the fingers and make the shifts in the left hand a little quick so the sound is nice and legato. And if you get that right hand planted before the left hand shifts again, it makes the left hand shifting and moving very silent and quick. That'll help to the overall legato texture of the etude. That last passage is more of the same thing. In general, if you don't have to move a left-hand finger off of a string when you change the chord, don't do it. It'll just distract from the change musically and with your technique physically. So just keep things nice and smooth, and keep your fingers on the strings if they don't have to move, and if they do have to move them as close to the strings as you possibly can. Only way you can effectively practice this is to practice at a very, very slow tempo. That's actually why I've only given the count off on these examples on the slower tempos. I feel that if I were to give them on the fast tempos, as slow as the etude is, people would only practice at tempo. But really the real magic in getting this nice clean legato is to practice slow and connected at extremely slow tempos with lots of repetition, and doing it over and over and over until the hands really learn what it takes. The last couple of measures are just a popular jazz turnaround, a little variation on 2-5-1. You hear that quite a lot at the ends and phrases and pieces of music in jazz. One thing I did at the end that you may not have seen before is playing what you call artificial harmonics. And the way I've done this is like this. You say, what in the world did you just do? Well, let me explain. First, you have to understand what a harmonic is, and the best way to see a harmonic is through a natural harmonic. A harmonic is when there's a place on a string that divides the string into a definite fraction. So, for instance, if we cut the string in half, we can put our finger right on the 12th fret here and just barely touch the string on the 12th fret. Don't even put any pressure, but just barely touch it, pluck it, then lift it right off. This will sound a harmonic. The strongest harmonics on the guitar are on the 12th fret. You cut the guitar strings in half essentially, on the 7th fret and the 19th fret. And those essentially give you an octave and a fifth higher than the original open string. And when you cut it in half at the 12th fret, that gives you just an octave above the original note. And then when you go cut the string into fourths, you can get it at the 5th fret, then the 12th fret again, and then at the 17th fret, or no, at the 24th fret, excuse me. So these distances of the harmonics, no matter if it's an open string or a fretted note, they don't change. So if you want to play a harmonic that is an octave higher than your original fretted note, let's just take one note, for instance, the C on the A string on the 3rd fret. So if we go 12 frets higher, it'll be on the 15th fret. So the way I sound that is I put my first finger over the where the harmonic node would be. So if it was open harmonic, then we'd be on the 12th fret. But now, since we moved it up 3, we're also going to move the harmonic up 3 frets too, to the 15th fret. So I put my first finger just gently on the fret that the harmonic belongs to, and I use my thumb below it, if you can see it, like that, to pluck the string. The same way I would do a natural harmonic. I just follow the chord shape with my left hand and mirror it in my right hand 12 frets higher. And it gives a nice little sparkle. This is really a nice touch to the end of a ballad or a slow tune, and it makes a nice sparkly sound to what I've heard a lot of pianists do at the end, where they kind of twinkle up in the high register and bring the mood of this piece down and make a good ending. So that's just a little extra thing you can throw in there. Thanks so much for watching. If you have any questions or comments or things you need more help with, feel free to email me at the address below, and I'll be glad to get back to you. I'll also be glad to come assist if you're a band director, give a clinic or some private lessons. If I'm in the area, don't hesitate to contact me about that as well. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it.